just woke up. Ooh. Now do you remember all the controls and everything?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm thinking Mr. Lucky, he's extremely lucky, but he's also like not extremely. Okay, this is bad.
Why?
Oh no. I opened up the terminal and now it's like locked. Like Twitch isn't even counting anymore.
What? Whoa.
I'll quit out and reopen it again. But what I was saying is, I'm imagining Mr. Lucky is extremely lucky, but also extremely unlucky, and he survived in the fridge, okay, for the nuclear blast.
The lemonade apples, Ricky?
But the nuclear blast was inside the fridge was inside the vault.
Pal.
Okay, let's see if we can do this again without glitching up the game.
Mm-hmm.
And we're doing survival, right?
Yep.
Okay.
I probably should add that to the description before we start. Let's fix that nose.
There we go. Let's hope this works.
There we go.
Hopefully it goes with my last character, not my last character. Because it didn't have a character select screen, so... Hello, 45 Gunner. So it's more of like a retro PC. Yes. Oh no, that's just the loading screen. That's Mr. Lucky. Nothing bad has ever happened to him. Well, a lot of bad things have happened, but he survives.
Some eyeliner, huh? It's just... No, I don't think we're gonna have any of that stuff here.
You're welcome, 45 Gunner. Thank you for being here.
No fribbles.
Okay. Now to find out if the game's gonna glitch.
Apparently the random generated character I have here decided he was going to have hives on his forehead.
Nope, it started from my previous game. This is...
No, I got these scars.
Bad. Why are we playing this again?
You wanted to play it?
Mm-hmm. No, I don't want to change my appearance. Oh my gosh. Get out of this menu! I guess I quit?
There we go.
I have no clue what all happened now. Okay.
Look at my body. Let's get my body. My body.
Mr. Lucky didn't get saved. Oh.
You say he didn't get saved?
No.
Oh, you gotta build him again.
I tried to do that so that my viewers wouldn't see the building process of Mr. Lucky.
What do they got, like one eye? Gargling across it, maybe missing half his nose.
Nah. I guess I should make Mr. Lucky just an incredibly disturbed individual looking wise.
He's barely alive.
Just barely alive, but he's so lucky that all his... Like, every injury he's had might be disfiguring, but he survived it.
Mm-hmm. Picture time. Okay. And we get on with the game. You're delighted.
I better not be invited. I still have to make my character.
Nah, you're fine. No, I was referring to the,
My game is
No,
just all confused right now.
I'll play that later. No timer. Clumsy I am. Sit here and play the good old guitar.
There we go. I was like, I'm clicking these and I'm seeing faces I've never seen in this game as the defaults.
Said it more.
I think that's no.
Ta-da! I make pretty music.
I guess they randomly generate the first 12 faces or whatever.
Yeah, then they're all defaults, I think.
Well,
Grab
I
the good
can't
old
find
pick
the
boy.
unless that was the default I used. Maybe that was the default I used. I can't remember.
Real quick while I'm sitting here. You can't remember.
There went up to
1 second here, fellas.
We'll go with that. Okay. Control.
Mm-hmm. Okay, let's turn that off.
Okay.
Oh, we're good. We're good. Get rid of that. Oh boy.
Disturb is that one guy look to be wearing just tidy whities and from the waist down. LOL. No, we're not gonna do that. Not that type of disturb.
Just my sensitivity here.
Makeup.
There we go. Oh, it's already pretty low. Can't go much lower.
What are you looking for? So the question
No, I was trying to pull look sensitivity.
Should we make this guy have survived literally everything? Or should he be lucky enough not to ever have to deal with anything?
It's up to you.
That's the question.
Yeah, it's your adventure.
Should this be our character? Is this Mr. Lucky? Or we're moving all of these Mr. Lucky? Basically, do we want Scarface or not Scarface?
You want us to go this way? That's the way we go! Get all my goodies here, my purified water, and my radix. Get my stim packs and my ride away.
Body.
Okay.
Get my building supplies.
You wanna come stay with us?
There we go.
Get
And
my
that's
goodbye hat.
Mr. Lucky. Okay.
The terminal's over here, right?
Let's try this again. Let's see if we don't
Love you.
glitch it.
See you guys tomorrow.
Mr. Lucky. Mr. Lucky. Go. Ooh. Speed run to the terminal.
Preserve them all.
Yep, we read that. You're invited. We're
Everyone must
good.
leave the nest. It's imperative that all residents are focused on the important job of rebuilding America.
anything else in?
Alright.
I don't wanna play the
Reclamation has
controller.
arrived.
That's junk.
And out the door we go to die.
Okay. I can't remember if there's anything I can get in the beginning. I can activate the sink. Fresh water.
Oh crap. I meant to take the holotape. That's not my holotape.
Washer. But nope,
Let's
nothing
play
else.
the
Okay.
holotape.
Let's grab my Pit Boy. It's exactly where I last stored it.
Yeah, in the doorway. We're normal people with their pit boys.
I could have kept
I wonder
it
if it
on
would have
my
been.
own.
I wonder if it was on like a timer. Is it behind a glass box and on this day today it ends up breaking through?
Okay.
Oh, you got me. That's my mistake.
I activated my mailbox. Just to tell me when I get back here that I have mail. Oh, I can't open that door.
Got my camp.
Okay, I think I need to go up here. I'm so used to being overweight that I feel like I'm Speedy Gonzales. Again, it's like, you're not going in the right direction. How
It's funny.
dare you?
I put my wire sensitivity as low as I can put it in the game. Still, like, you're still turning too fast. Like, it does this weird turning where it's not. Like, it'll be turning 3/4 and then it'll give you like a swing turn. Like, no. Why?
Take some purified water, take some Rad X.
So install my Nuka-Cola Cherry.
Stand back right away.
So I wonder how the NPCs are going to work in this game. Are they going to be the typical NPCs for these type of games? Here, I want this thing. Go fetch it for me.
I think it's gonna be that. A party hat. We're definitely.
I mean
putting
that's
a
how it
party hat on.
typically works, anyways. You put yours on. I'll put mine on. We're newbies.
I don't know how. How do I?
Car back.
There we go. I was like, how do I get to
I
the
leveled
third
up.
person view? My
Obviously, charisma. Oh, there you go.
Port cards. I'll take some glasses and I'll take the pen. And Mr. Lucky only can be characterized by being lucky.
When you leave the vault, let me know. I'm watching the slideshow.
Okay. I'm sure the people watching your stream love you. I'm just watching the light show.
It's how we roll.
Did I miss one? Or
Oh,
is
I
it
gotta go.
glitched
Food and Hunger is active now.
Oh, I need to go into that room, yep. I remember this. Oop.
No man behind the curtain, huh?
I just have to play the holotape, right? And then I eject the holotape and we can leave.
Interesting. I don't think anything was lootable. Trust your officer. Obey your officer. Know that each and every member of your team was selected specifically for the assignment because of all checks beat than you. If you work together, you will succeed.
Outside the world.
Incident reports. Joe caught M. Thompson singing loudly during the night cycle. He got into the reclamation party stores and borrowed a six-pack.
Are they opening the door? The door's open.
I'm over here reading the security logs.
Exit into the light. There we go. Okay, I'm exiting into the ward right now. My fans are getting to watch or getting to see the snapshots we took of many months ago. It must have been a good 9 months. There we go.
Yeah, it was back within a month of the game coming out.
Yep.
Pretty much grinded it and put it on ice.
Wow, that is
Here we
a
go.
long-barreled shotgun. Yes, it was. And that guy just killed somebody. Okay, whenever you want to invite me, at level 57 or something. There's a lot of high levels coming around.
You're around level 57s, huh? They're over there picking on you, poking you, beating you with a stick.
Picking on me, but they're definitely around.
Technically you're level 1, so you can't technically be harmed.
Yay! I do know they just beat it up to level 7, so I don't have a gun for that robot. So whenever you want to send an invite, or I can send an invite, whichever one you prefer.
I'll send it. Give me a second. Yeah, I'll send it. Well, technically I need to actually go back to the menu so we can go do hardcore is what I need to do. Because it won't let you, like, well, maybe, no, because it wouldn't let you choose a new character. It would have taken your existing one.
I got a weapon.
Okay, here we go. I'm going to get sniped as soon as I spawn into this world. I can just feel it. I always imagine someone off in like the trees, you know, the sniper rifles, like just got their little scope on the Vault 76 door, like the moment someone spawns, they're going to die.
Nah, no one ever plays this game.
There was enough people in the world that I joined initially. You can see some of the nice improvements they made to the map where it actually shows where the camps are and everything. Captain McLucky. You should have called him Lucky McLucky.
Well, why didn't you come up with that sooner?
She's a hula hand. And I'll invite everyone here. We can all play together now. Get a little bit of dream team action going.
Play together. Play together.
I probably need to, like, as soon as I spawn, run and hide and then invite you, because I guarantee the moment I...
I don't think I can catch that deal.
Take, run.
I haven't gotten an invite.
Yeah, give me a second, I'm gonna go hide in the corner over here, Warren. I'm in danger. Something's already chasing me.
Let's see. Can I accept? Can I join? Yeah. I'm joining you.
Give me 8. No, okay, that works. That's nice.
Because I was like, if we wait too long, by the time you get an invite to me, the stream will be over.
Nah, I just had to get to a spot where I wasn't going to be murdered.
Mm-hmm.
There we go.
Why are you sending me an invite? You're gonna break my game. Fallout 76.
Just don't accept it.
Fallout 76 cannot accept all that. I still love that loading picture. When you had the headlamp on me and I was sitting in the chair.
I'll wait for you two superstars to spawn. There's only 12 people in my lobby.
Yay! There should be 13 now. Invite to team.
Happily accept that. Oh, got the wrong button. Yes. I'm my Lucky's team. Where's Lucky? So I can actually see you on the map now, in theory, right? You're south.
I'm a lucky person.
Now we're just waiting for... I'm gonna play with that little scammy boy.
I killed it! Yay! That's a super.
Did pick up a gun.
That's a. Oh no, that's ground. Never mind. I was like, that's a level 50 super mutant just walking around.
That means it's probably a level 50 something around us.
No, it's the selling one.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Hmm. Where are you? You're north.
I'm north of you. I'm coming.
I'm coming.
I'm gonna have to probably delete that app off my phone.
Why?
I have an app for the Green Bay Packers, and for some odd reason, my phone keeps like alerting me like every 5 minutes. Hey, the app stopped working. I'm like, okay. Hey, the app stopped working. I'm like, it's not even open. And I'm like, okay. And I'm like, close app. And I'm like, okay. Need to find a weapon, like a stick or something.
I got a machete.
That's nice.
I have no clue why you chose to climb the mountain.
Who?
You!
Like I said, I immediately spawned and then went to go hide in a corner to get you an invite. You over here? Oh, I think you're nice.
You see me?
So no one's over here where the vault's at?
I see you! No one's coming.
Because I know whenever
attack
people
me.
die, you can spawn where you want. So that's why I was kind of skittish.
Take the fusion shells. Not gonna take that. Okay.
Propaganda.
Mr. Lucky never
Really
dies
is.
when he jumps down a cliff.
Hmm.
Hello.
Where'd it go? There it is. Give me that steel. You're wearing overalls.
Yeah, I already found them.
There's a bag over here.
Bag.
Dirty water. Mine.
No.
There's a player nearby recently.
Oh.
Unless something just happened to die that dropped dirty water.
Die. Okay. What in the world
guess
is
ultimately
my
the
phone going off with? Okay. Oh my god.
Aluminum.
He's just gonna keep texting me because he's expecting a response, and I'm just not gonna give him one right now. So, luckily he doesn't watch this stream, so he'll never know. Ooh, I got some tomahawks.
Like I said, I'm ready to start moving south when you are.
Ow. Come here, you little evil.
Shit, I do got a weapon I need to equip.
There we go. Funny thing is, I'll talk to him tomorrow. Tomorrow.
Elmira.
Where is the...
Yeah, coming there, Scamaroo.
Okay. Nope.
I don't think he wants to play with us.
I'll go. Baseball bat. Ow! No evil thing.
Someone need help?
Nah,
I'm coming
just
with my golf club.
I'm still remembering the controls.
Nice. Tomahawks.
You want some? I got some.
And lots of bullets. I don't need them. I don't even really use them, honestly. When my carry weight gets bad, I'm gonna start using them. We need to go south, though.
I got a baseball bat. I definitely look like Mr. Lucky right now. A guy with a baseball bat, a party hat on my head, and suspenders on my chest.
We found us a campsite, we did.
Oopsie, I didn't want to sleep, but okay.
Lots of bullets.
I'm sleepy.
It's alright.
Didn't want
God made us
to.
a pot. Oh, they got intestines now in the game. I don't recall those.
Yeah, regularly it was just meat.
Intestines.
Oh, what was
You
the
sure you don't take a
first
nap?
quirk you chose?
Charisma.
Well, like what card did you get?
I didn't choose a card yet. My bad. I forgot about that. Oh, I chose inspirational, obviously, for charisma.
Okay. I chose... Ooh, that isn't how you see it. How do you see it? There we go. I chose Fauna Farm. So I have a higher chance of finding chems.
Good. You can then, you know, please your inner junkie, huh?
Well, I am Mr. Lucky.
I'll never get addicted, hopefully. I'm just collecting the wild fauna. No, that was mine! No! No! No, you're doing different stuff!
Again, I'm Mr. Lucky.
They're behind you. Foul tick, those are new. That's I think. I don't recall seeing those before. Let me help you.
Don't mind me. I'm Lucky. Let me scrap some of this junk. Let me scrap the beer bottle.
Well, I think you have the ability to search again, right? If I recall.
What?
Like you can search again, like the chem boxes.
No. I can't search again.
Here's sir. Oh, there's a level 13 over here.
I don't recall how to. Whoops! I just stemmed myself. There we go. Say hello.
Hope it doesn't try to murder your face.
I'm still level 1.
Hey, it's waving. That's nice.
I'm still level 1.
How do you wave again?
Down arrow?
I stemmed myself. Crap.
Down arrow.
I gotcha.
It's okay, I did the exact same thing.
He's like,
Oh, you can
Talk
make
about it.
beers now. And spirits and
yeah,
wine.
that was
Oh my
that was
God.
added a while back. He's like, oh, he's like, I'm not the guy. They come to take your lunch money. I forget to always break the stuff down.
I can make some meat. Yes, I believe I did. Nope, wrong thing. Dang it! Hit the wrong button again. Okay, 45 gunner, talk to you later.
Bye.
I think he already left.
I'll stop being courteous. Kind, nice.
Okay.
Did you already go harvest the potatoes over here?
Harvest
For food?
potatoes? No, I haven't harvested potatoes. I have harvested the potatoes.
Okay. Downward south we go.
I just like that I carry my back with me.
I'm curious on how the backpacks work, because it'd be pretty nice to... with the new carry weight. Oh, I'm ranked number 6 in the lobby.
That sucks.
I'm number 7 now, thank God. It does, because like, you know how it works, like whenever you're top 3, you get put on the scoreboard and then people come hunt you.
Mm-hmm.
As long as I'm like number 5, I'll be consistently happy. But you get more rewards, I think more XP boosts and all kinds of stuff the higher up you are on the board though.
Yeah.
So it does have it. Those are new. No, those aren't new. Normally they come out at night though. It's kind of weird having them now. I remember when I saw this for the first, I was like, oh my god, the game is so deep.
Right.
Just whenever you see those night bugs. I was like, oh my god, there's stuff like that. Oh, it comes out at night. How cool is that? But I think that's like the only thing you see at night. Oh, being bit by something. Double tapping.
Well,
Mid box.
I remember how to vats and everything. Again,
I think it's the left button, I think.
Yeah.
Yes, left button. Oh, so it does use your AP. I couldn't remember if it did or not. I'm like, why is that bar not moving? I was like, oh, it's the wrong one. Hey, ammo boxes and stuff up here. Lucky McLucky over here. Oh, you're in the other building over.
Yeah. Right now I'm not getting any luck at finding anything. Nope, baseball grenades. I'll take that. Nope, got
there's a servitor over here. We're gonna come fight it.
Hmm?
There's a robot over here. We're gonna come fight it.
Okay. I'm coming.
I'd rather have you with me because it's probably gonna end up like knocking me all around. Oh, you're here. Let's go get it. We need more steel.
Well, I'm dead.
I got it. I'll save you. Oh god, I literally murdered you. I was gonna try to tell you that, like try to stay out from in front, scratching your body.
I'm gonna have to start at 76, I guess.
Yep. These only places you can spawn are your camp or 76.
Well, I kind of like how it was just like only attacking me. I'm like, I'm like, okay.
I was hoping you were gonna like try to step back.
I tried to step
hit
back.
You because it...
Where is it?
'Cause I remember my first counter on hard, and it was like a one shot, one kill whenever it swings. I'm like, yeah, let's try to avoid that. That's why whenever it attacked you, I was like, that's nice. That helps me a little bit.
Yeah, it helps you a little bit. And you get all of it.
The good thing is I didn't see your bag drop, so maybe it's only visible to you.
Or it just didn't drop and I lost everything.
Oh god, I'm number 6 now on the board. Clever Sora, where is that person at? Because I want to make sure we're not near any violent people over here. Yep, that's... Oh god, there's a 129 running around murdering people.
I forgot how bad this game is when it comes to third person not knowing how to find your stuff. There we go. Okay, I got everything.
I guess I'll put the leg on here. I have armor now.
I had armor.
Hey, I got adhesive. Thank God that's you. I kind of held my brother. I was like, oh god, I'm gonna get murdered.
Nah, I like the suspender look.
There's explosions going on.
Is that what that was?
I might need to invest in a pair of binoculars to look around to make sure. Oh god, it's over there. It's like right near it. Oh, there's another player. Oh, it was a level 2. Guess we'll sit here on the... we can't sit on the bus. Oh. The wheels on the bus go round and round. Robot.
I know. You gotta tick on.
Oh god, no! I didn't mean to attack you! I didn't mean to attack it!
No, it's a tick.
Okay. Good, it didn't. I thought it was another robot, and I was like, I don't want to hit the responder ones. Obviously. For obvious reasons. We need to get going south, so through this gate, I guess. Over the way, over the river, went through the woods, mute fruits. I guess in theory we'll want to set up one of our camps near that one spot like we did last time.
Sure. That's a very specific location.
We're all... oh my god! Scary. You're walking around a corner and you're getting shot at. That's not nice. There's like a shock factor. I didn't think anyone was going to be in here.
The first pistol.
Let's break everything down.
I got a pistol finally.
Nice.
I could do long distance fighting instead of being right on top of everything.
I'm gonna wrap this golf club and so it ends up breaking. Oh, more enemies.
Nope, too late. Nope, can't do anything with the thing. Can I do anything?
Ah, it really hurt. Ah, it really hurt.
Nope. I'm coming.
No, it's pumpkins. Nice, nice, nice. Oh, mine. Oh, mine. Hey, you want some of these pumpkins?
You mean the ones we both can grab?
No, once I grab that is a bear. Why don't you grab them to disappear?
I got
Yeah, I got the other ones then. They don't bother me. It's food. Oh, enemies. Die! Oh, I'm going to die. I missed. Oh my god, it's not registering his hits. Please hit him, please!
some. Got some cash.
Nice. Nice, I got scissors. But scissors have plastic, so I'm okay with that. Or plastic is like one of those, like, golden resources.
Mm-hmm.
Got missed on toothpaste.
Okay, what's up here?
I'm guessing you're going for 2 hours, right?
Yep. I'm
What we'll do
guessing-
if you want to around the hour and a half mark if you want to do the battle royale.
And I'm guessing Scam's not joining us.
He doesn't want to play with us. He's just too cool. I'm sending him invites. I don't know, he's not joining.
It's you. Why do you keep telling me about you? Why is the ward all about you?
Just ignore that invite again. I'll send him another one. Maybe he's got us on mute and he just doesn't know it. I hear ruffling. I just don't think he likes us anymore.
Ow.
Oh boy. There you go, you're in chest back. Go for it. Good kill. There's another one. Oh, come on. Ah.
God.
I wanted that XP.
Don't know how to do that.
Left button. The Overseer's camp's right over here. You probably gotta take it nice and slow, because odds are someone's probably like puppy guarding it. Like, you don't get to talk to the Overseer. Wink. Yeah, let's cross that bridge. We don't want no radiation poisoning now, do we? I guess I'll just keep grabbing all this loot fungus here. Come on, my carry weight. I'm halfway there. Unless, you know... Unless Game's actually in our world and he's hunting us right now. I can feel it, like it's right in my neck! Right. That's me. Oh, the Overseer. Oh, you found, at the camp, I should say. Let's hurry up and try to get in and out of here before we get mugged here.
Okay, crafted that.
That's autoplay, that's good.
I can craft that again. I might just do that.
Good, let me dump all my stuff in the stash here.
Sure, why not?
Wow, they did increase the vault space to 800.
We'll just
It's
craft-
probably already...
I look so good.
The vault space was originally 600 and they buffed it to 8, right?
Yeah, or something along
I
those
recall.
lines.
Let's make me a shoulder pad. Hello, toxic silence. I could go rock the Silver Shroud outfit.
I bet the hat.
Why not? Pretty good. How about yourself? I guess we'll go. Let's go, Arm.
I'm just gonna scrap
I'm about to level up again.
little bit I made. Okay.
Why not?
And then nope. That's 8. That's 4. That's 9.
It won't let me go.
I have to place
Yes.
my camp still, but
Yeah, you place your camp.
or you most likely have to do the same.
No more, or like until next year.
What?
Let me. Talking to a viewer, Mr. Toxic Silence, or
Oh,
Miss
I'm like,
Toxic Silence,
I'm
Toxicity.
like, what are you saying?
Random words scare me.
They do, they do. Do you recall what button is to repair something?
Crypto weapon. Oh, it doesn't matter. You said to repair?
Yeah.
It says Y at the workbench. I need to craft something, not repair. Silly me.
Oh, do you need a? It looks like you need a. Oh, okay. So you can repair with a repair kit.
Just build one of these. Why not?
You can repair with a repair kit, but you also need to. The repair system's different. It's
Oh, they fix. Oh, it's not like it was before, where you could just like take stuff and just repair.
Oh no, it's still that. It just takes a few more steps.
Really? Oh, we're being shot at by something.
Okay, pouring out. Where are you getting shot?
Oh, I see it. Oh, kill it. Oh, then, that's what's shooting at us. Going to kill you. I'm going to die, one or the other.
Thank you. Hit it. Awesome. Okay.
Yeah, we got it nice.
Yeah, I leveled up. Okay.
I'm a bloody mess, I am.
More luck. More ammo. Yay!
No, as I was doing. That golf club holding up, still good.
Oh my gosh. Just standing next
Don't
to
mind
you.
me.
All of a sudden. No, I haven't picked up anything. Nope. Dang it. I got the left leg, so I need to still make the right leg.
It is odd to get this quest stuff like really early, because I remember before you had to, you had to go find. I think it was like, oh, Miguel. And it's like, oh, Miguel's like, oh, put your camp down. Like, okay. Kind of weird to get this objective early. Or I don't recall it getting early.
No, I believe
Getting
you
it
did
early.
Okay, I think I have everything armor-wise except that.
Don't mind me. Awkward, I'm number 3. I'm number 3 in the lobby. This could be bad. This could be bad. They're gonna come kill me. I don't change it. I already changed it. Huh. Number 2 is at Vault 76.
I'm ready to go whenever you are.
Aye, aye, Captain.
Unless you have
Let
a
us go.
specific place you want to place camp.
No, so we just keep going. I say try to at least get us to the airport before we place camp.
Okay.
I forgot to break all my stuff down. Let me go back and break everything down real quick, so I can get more carry weight.
Okay. Anything else I want?
Let's break everything down. Everything. Huh, I already scrapped everything. I got pipe pistols I can break now. Let's break that one down.
So I can accidentally press it when I'm not supposed
Break that one down. If I recall, they did it right in this game where I can still put these on, right? Yep. Break down that wood leg real quick. Please tell me that's you. Actually, the wood leg's better than the leather leg.
Put my hat away.
And it's lighter, too.
Yeah,
I'll get rid of that.
All those I'll keep. The gunpowder I'll keep on me.
Okay.
I'll put all...
I'm ready when you are.
Keep all the hollow tapes.
Yeah.
Keep all the notes. Should I put all of the junk away? I don't know.
And then to cook real quick and I got all those pumpkins. We definitely could use a fountain, though.
I don't know what you mean by fountain.
Like a water. Oh, there's another player.
Hello.
Hello. Scam! Oh boy, he's got a red dot over his head. He is engaging combat. Oh, buddy, scam.
I would laugh if it's actually not Scam and he's just... he's just somebody with a very similar name.
Please don't murder me. I'm the third in the lobby. I got all these boosters, man. Don't do it. Oh, we can invite him to our team. I forgot.
He's invited.
Hey, thank you.
Now we kill
He
him.
joined. I don't think it works like that. No, he just needs to speak. Boy, he's got some radiation. He comes up, joins the squad like, I'm dying. Need help. Now let's go onward. You got your pit boy line on. Good, you're a moving target.
The only true way.
Oh yeah, we got those crazy, broken farmers up ahead. You're mine, Farmer Joe. Yeah. Long scam, you got no guns? Using those big brooding fists? You big strong man, you. He's not moving. He's not moving, Skippy. Oh, they dropped something. Gifts for me! What are you doing? Oh yeah, laser gun, nice. Laser pistol, that's nice. Oh, I already killed the mongrel.
No, I waited.
Now I'll tell you what, Scam. Whenever we get to the end of this playthrough, I will happily duke it out with you. So I'll check the mail. Got my lovely chalk for the day. Some pre-war money, that'll make good cloth. You're being attacked by a mole rat. Eating your soul. Owie. Are you attacking something still? Yeah, there's a possum over there. My cigarettes. Oh boy. Oh boy, what are we fighting? I'm gonna turn my light on here so I can see. Order up, sir. Have your keys, sir. Extra plastic, that's good to have.
Where's the born?
Good to see.
I just picked up. There you go. How do I drop? There you go.
Give me some of these plants. Loot the buildings. Hey, poor guy. Ah! Red roaches. Plastic.
Pillow.
Nice, you found cloth.
No,
Screwdriver.
I found a pillow to rest my head with.
Oh, that's nice. That's nice. That's nice. So over here. Hello, hello. Ooh, plastic. Plastic. Ooh, screws. I remember screws are also like a rarity as well. Dun-dun, 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 dun. Got me some good old medics. Got me some drugs. Very, very nice.
Country roads, take me home.
Okay. Looks like somebody found
To
the
place.
light.
West Virginia.
Looks like
Such a good
somebody
song.
found their mic.
Buoys. Plastic, 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 plastic. Go plastic addict. West Virginia. You're speaking to your mic, bud. We can't hear you.
Like that?
Use your big boy
You
words.
like that?
Are you screaming across the room at your controller or something? Also telepathically playing? You're scaring the children.
Think about the children.
One of us. One of us. Give me some of that good old. Give me some of that good old soap. More grab that one. Oh, I need to turn that radio off. Copyrights.
Copyrights everywhere. You get a copyright. You get a copyright.
I think the mop gives me plastic. It'll give me wood. Wood. Gonna score. Finally, I got some money. Got my first caps of the game. There we go. I got some moolah. So we're at the hour mark now.
Mm-hmm.
The good thing with you being lucky though is you have like chances to find like extra caps and stuff. So you know it'd be good having you on the team. You know.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, all the planet stuff here. Good old soap bean. I can take the hoe. I found a hoe.
Uh-oh. I didn't know they added that to this.
Oh boy. Oh boy. Oh, it's you.
Ah, well, I'm dead.
Oh.
There's
Oh boy. Going the other way.
143
Going the other way.
or
Going the
148
other way.
that just like destroyed me.
Yep, they're. Yeah, I went the other way. I'm probably going to die. I'm so sorry for your loss. I'm so sorry for your loss. Poor scam. I'm just gonna keep going this way. I'm gonna get sniped. My head might explode here.
Dang
Oh, I got a
it.
pinch of health. I found water.
I don't know if I'll be able to even get back to my stuff.
That's why I'm like running away. Like I'm going to die where.
Of course,
It does mark it on your map when you die, right?
yeah. No, I'm good.
I mean, you guys already spawned, didn't you? This is, I could put my camp down and give y'all guys like a rally point. But it's not gonna matter. It's 143, so I mean, we're gonna get one shot at killed every time we go around that corner. Well, as odd as it might sound, I mean, we can probably stop here and go towards the battle royale. I don't know if you really want to
I would like to
keep
at
poking
least
the bear.
try to get my stuff once.
Yeah, you can. You can. You know what I mean. Like I don't know. I could still be being chased. I don't know. I'm actually number 2 on the map, so odds are I'm probably being hunted right now. Oh, Scam's here! Hey, buddy! I was scared. I went around the corner and watched you guys die. Guess I'll set my camp down here, so it gives us a rally point next time we start, because I don't know. Move camp. Camp. Put it over here in the wilderness. Okay, put my camp down. So I need to put a stash box so I can just drop everything I'm carrying so I don't lose it forever. We need stash boxes. Drop all my stuff.
But I thought you said he wouldn't be able to hurt us until we were level 5.
I don't know if that applies for this lobby. Because typically, whenever this game mode even started, they did that fluky thing where they just greenlit it immediately. Because they didn't make everyone have to make a new character, so I guess they kind of just said, whatever happens, happens, you know, good luck.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, but you know, it is what it is, I mean. Drop off it on my 8 here in the box.
Hunt for my stuff. It still says I can retrieve it, so theoretically it should still be there. The question is he still there?
I'm being attacked by Morats. That's good to have. That's a good problem to have, right?
See, I thought
Oh,
he was
my problem is I need it.
Scorch.
I don't know. All I know is I went around that corner and I saw both of you guys die immediately. I was like, oh my goodness. Like, I panicked. I literally 180'd the other way and sprinted. Nice platform. King of the mountain. As I get sniped. Wouldn't that be hilarious? Me standing on this platform and just get sniped immediately. And then just make your day. It's like Scam's like building platforms over here, and I can imagine a scenario where he builds a platform and then he sees me immediately die. I'm number 3 on the list now, so I wonder if it's more score based than it is actually survival based. I know the score resets when you die.
Can I not shoot? Dang it. Thank you, Mr. Handy.
Okay, so I'm guessing how it works is the vendor stuff's opened up whenever you... Yeah, Yeah, that person's still over there south. I'm sure you can see on the map. Oh, wow. It feels so dirty.
What?
I don't know. Because it's such a pivotal point in the map, especially early on, where it's like, I'm just gonna just stay over here and just kill whoever comes through. Like, you think they'd, like, want to hunt bigger game, you know?
You know, the issue is and this is where the issue is with this game is, at some point, you have to hunt small game because there's not enough big game in the lobby.
I need to find water.
I mean, like you said, you've been bouncing rank 2, 3 back and forth for a while now.
Kill the bug. Give me here, Jesus. I don't know, Scam. Do you want to kill me? You want to kill me, Scam? You want to kill me? Come here, come kill me. Anyway.
I retrieved my loot.
I'm gonna let. Oh God, he got another player. Oh God, what are you doing? What are you doing? I'm not gonna take his stuff. That feels wrong. What was his level? I wish I could speak so I can hear you. You killed him and took all this stuff. That's funny.
He was shooting me. He deserved it.
Oh, okay, okay. I didn't know if he was shooting you or not. I was like, or in these times of war, that's just how you play. He shot first. The con shoot first, buddy.
Well, if he's dead, he can't
No, in
contest.
second place. I took all his stuff.
You did too. You took literally all of his stuff, and he had some decent stuff. I saw like healing salves and all kinds of stuff in there, salves or whatever they're called. So he's probably going to try to murder you now. I mean, if he shot you first, then yeah, he obviously deserved it. But I don't know. I know your spontaneous personality. You probably just like, it's free game. Let me drink this dirty water here. Wish me luck here.
I'm gonna place my camp nearby yours. I think you're north of me right now.
I just put it more just to have a spawn point more than anything. It's not really. I haven't even really done anything to it. But as I was saying, you wanna kill me, Scam? Wanna kill me, Scam?
Sure.
Alright, let me leave the group and then you can murder my base.
I don't want to kill you.
Oh, I'm number 3 on the board. If you kill me, I get pulled off the board.
Oh.
It doesn't really matter. I think there's like an XP boost that I get and stuff for being higher, I think.
Put all my stuff up here. My stash box.
That's why it's there. I'm like, let me just dump everything I have before... Oh, there's another player nearby. He's coming to murder you. He's behind you. He's behind you. I mean to murder you. This is an interesting battle. He's wearing a radiation suit. Dun, 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 dun. Oh, he's got the possum perk. Oh, you killed him again. A different person. Look at you.
Got some
Look at you.
coins off of that one.
I'm so bad. I'm going to get like reported.
Why?
I just drug my poor little nutsack across his face.
And I'm gonna get banned from you too.
I feel so bad. I feel so bad, guys.
Coming down to you guys.
I feel so bad.
If you want, we could start trying the
Actually, pacifist is enabled for me. I need to actually take that off. Ooh, scam's number 2 on the list. Look at you, Mr. Big Baddie. That sucks. I don't have like a gun or anything. Is my problem.
I have plenty.
And I have plenty of stim packs and boosters and poor Badger died again. Did you say you wanted to try the battle royale though?
Yeah, if you want to start.
Am I being shot at again?
It's a robot.
Ow.
Yeah, I'm cool with it. Let me just grab whatever's over here real quick. We can at least try it and see if it's worth it. I heard there's no ping system and then there's no crawl system. I mean, it's pretty much like straight up basic battle royale, but I mean, it is what it is. I mean, it's a beta.
So you think that guy's mad?
No, you got him straight up. He came back.
He's coming back again.
No, he's coming back.
I'm dead.
The 37. Oh, he's way part of the buddy this time.
Yeah, he killed me.
Buddy this time.
Cam's dead.
And you're dead. And we're gonna go high in the water. Yep.
I think the black one's dead.
I'm not dead yet. Now I'm dead.
I saw him look up and I'm like, yep, I think you're dead. I'm like laying against a rock.
My dead corpse. I'm dying.
So if you guys are okay, we can start moving on.
Yep. I guess I gotta respawn first, I guess.
Or you could just,
I could just quit. There we go. Wait, can I? I don't want to respawn. I want to quit.
I wish it told you how many people were in this lobby.
When you spawn in, it'll tell you because you'll start at the bottom of the list again.
Go up to your hit start, then go up to your name. Click leave world.
Oh, I see. Yep, menu. I see. So I don't want to spawn again and then immediately get shot up again.
I got an achievement for killing those people. How about that?
All I had was a golf club, so that wasn't going to last long for me.
Well, I'm still trying to find like the best way to.
I tried hiding behind a rock. Like, what's funny is that they killed you two, and then I guess they didn't see me. I'm just like standing over there, so I was like, I'm gonna go hide behind the rock. Maybe they can't see me. And then he looked at me, kind of shot at me a little bit, and I was like, yeah, well, I'll die. That's cool.
So,
Okay, so I guess we're going to play Nuclear Winter. Fill team off, obviously.
So wait, fill teams off, then oh, I know what you need to do.
Do it at the menu, right?
You have to do it at the home screen. I can do it. Invite to team. Invite to team.
I killed 2 people. I killed 2 people.
Accept team invite. Alright, I'm on your team now.
Yep.
And then I guess you take us in whenever.
Or it should now say play with team.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now if whoever
That's just
does
waiting.
it,
Well, you're the leader, so you get to take us in.
okay. I guess you only have 1 life. Last team standing wins. Overseer XP. Progress through.
So what do I do? It just says waiting.
Wait.
Yeah, we're waiting for Ransom. He's the leader.
I'm trying to read the objectives to you guys.
Sorry, sometimes I'm so sorry.
I guess we'll just enter and just figure it out. When we die a billion times, we might learn how to win.
I think that's the best way to do things. We learn from our mistakes.
Earn Overseer
like a battle.
XP and progress through Overseer ranks to unlock new content. Uncover the tragic story
Boy, I
of
guess I'll just
Vault
eat some taco sauce.
51 original dwellers as you gain access to the new vault rooms. Unlock perks using a brand new perk card system built specifically for Nuclear Winter. Okay.
Yeah, I'm guessing they do that thing where you'll build your character before you start, I guess. They'll probably give you like a minute to do it.
Yep, I'm predicting. Ready?
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's a battle royale. I mean, it's pretty standard, I guess. I'm just curious on how they're gonna do the start, I guess. Oh boy, immediate into a gamer. Here we go.
Well, my thing was I
guess
wanted
they're
to
gonna-
know if there was like, oh, you could kill everyone, but also you need to get X points or whatever to technically win.
Well, I'm guessing it's just kill confirmed, I guess, or just team a deathmatch essentially.
Kill
I mean, I don't really know
Kill
many.
Guardian.
Yes, the black and
I
white
don't know,
doesn't play a
really.
lot of battle royales.
Well, I don't. Well, what I'm saying is I don't know many battle royale games that are objective based other than just kill the opponents.
Yes, but I
It'd be the
also
last
don't
team
know
standing.
many battle royales in Fallout. So like, how do you get weapons? Most battle royales, you just find them and pick them up. Are you gonna have to craft them?
That's what I'm saying. I'm curious now. Fallout does it.
Mhm.
Like, is there gonna be like 20 vaults just scattered around like a big map, and then you just spawn and go, or is it gonna be like crawl out of the ground, or?
And because
Or
because of how the map layout is, depending on where you are, you could just get killed by the environment almost immediately.
Okay.
Nuka competition.
Where's my
Four
team?
Nuka codes unleashed shot from open.
Michael, I'm coming
What?
to you. Where are you? I get to you. Where are the mouse? Let's fight.
Okay, alright, that's how we're gonna do it, huh?
I'm
That's how we're gonna do it, huh? Everyone's going to swing around the fist, here.
Are we supposed to punch each other, or?
I think this is the hoarding zone.
I don't seem to be taking damage.
Yeah, because we're all in hoarding.
Ah!
And I'm Mr. Lucky. Or actually, no. We actually don't have any forks.
It's a slapping good time.
Your deck is full.
You like that?
Unencrypted.
Come here, you long-haired,
Hey, what
nose, big
forks
face.
do you guys have?
Wait. Oh, that's not what I wanted to do. Someone's playing the banjo. There we wait. Oh. New cards. 7 cards. There we go. I guess they just give you cards, I guess.
Yes, but I'm trying to figure out, is it the same cards for everyone or random?
Okay, okay. Strong back, picklock, life giver, creature crusher, hacker,
No, all the
marathoner,
same
and password.
cards.
Okay, pretty basic. Wait. Okay, so the same cards. I saw your charisma ranks at 3, so I wondered if that actually applied or not. Oh, we're using our base character from what we were doing.
Yeah.
Aha!
But I was trying to figure out with the card system.
Right. Well, I guess as it says, you get more cards as you rank up.
Yay, I love hearing smacking.
Smacky your time, yeah, smacky. Sloppy the worst. Then we can play whack-a-mole. Oh, just to play a game of whack-a-mole?
Activated the toilet.
Won't work.
Okay, I guess there we go. Where are we spawning, guys?
Where are we dropping?
That is something we should decide.
I say Sutton Station.
Where's that at?
Bottom right.
I'll choose bottom of Sutton Station. Actually, I'll choose...
I don't see Sutton Station.
Yeah, I say we aim for that little dark spot below Sutton Station. That like mountain-looking spot. Oh, cool, you can see the spots. Nice. We can all spawn there. That's cool. That's where everyone
Not letting me
spawned.
spawn. Can't spawn.
I think it's loading.
Yeah, I'm imagining
Yeah, it's
it's
loading.
yeah. That's kind
Guess
of
everyone-
weird
everyone
that you
put
can see
dots
where
down.
everyone is, though.
Yeah, I don't agree with that.
I'm like, uh-oh.
Should I kill you or no?
We're a team. We're a team.
Yeah.
We're
I mean,
together.
Yeah, we're team.
I'm predicting that friendly fire's on. I would imagine so.
Alright. And I turn that sucker off, we can blow each other up. Like, here, how about I leave the grenade? We need to, I guess first things first, is try to find a cabin.
Well, first things first is figure out what we're doing.
Finding weapons. That's why I'm like, cabins,
Well,
buildings, anything.
The
what
question
looks
is the weapons there, or are we finding scraps and then we're building weapons? Because if we're finding scraps,
I don't think it's gonna be that
building-
elaborate. I don't think it'll be that elaborate. It'll probably be typical Fallout. It'll probably be in a box somewhere. You just run, oh, look at the box, fine. Then you immediately equip it. I wonder if they're gonna do it like a typical battle royale where your perks and everything are. Alright, I'm going. I don't see any buildings.
I'm following your name.
Follow me.
Get out there, buddy. You're a ghost.
I found power armor.
Nice. Good, grab it.
I grabbed it. What was that? Whoa, what was
The problem is,
that
like, of course, this is my
item?
first match, so I. There's a bus down here. Someone's already dead.
Oh, I can just make a quick wall.
You're no longer protected. You are visible and can take damage. Oh boy. What is get? Oh, guys, another player over there.
Where are
Oh, boy.
you guys? I'm coming.
I don't have a weapon. There's a thingy chasing me. Scam, help! Help, scam!
I'm trying, but he really wants you.
He's going to eat me. He's eating me.
Come on, thank
He's killing me.
I have a
Mine.
weapon for it.
Bang, 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 bang.
I got a gun.
Oh, someone got a
Okay,
gun.
health. I got a stim pack. No, I don't. Okay, I use my stim pack. You get one stim pack. Well, I guess stick with me. I'll protect you.
I'm behind you guys, but hey. Not like I got the armor.
I guess we'll let you go first then. You lead the way, Legna.
Boom, boom, boom. Ooh.
Oh, I'm kind of jelly of that.
Ooh, right
You have a gun?
pack, awesome.
Oh,
I
nice.
don't have anything.
Oh, yes.
I'm just a baby.
Okay, we'll keep you in the middle. Here are. We'll protect you. We'll protect Scam.
Any direction you guys
Everyone
wanna
following
go?
along.
House to the
single
right.
file line,
There's a
so
building
we
to the
get
right.
shot
Let's go to
in
the
head
right.
and die.
Let's go to the right. There's buildings over here. We can probably try to scam some armor and weapons and stuff.
This is almost exciting.
It is, isn't it?
What do you have in here?
Don't forget this is where
Gatling
all
gun.
those.
I have a Gatling gun with no ammo.
Nice. Nice. I got a revolver. I got wood armor. Nice. Hey, bobblehead.
I got any lag on your side? Just like
Um,
periodically.
I have some
not from
gray
what I can
flag.
tell. Oh, there's a guy over here.
I
Oh,
got
Legna's
that.
got red on him. Get him, Legna!
Scout armor.
He's gonna kill me! Help me! He's punching me in the face! Help me!
Kill or be killed.
Oh,
I'm dead.
Michael's down.
Yeah, I can
Okay,
see
how
slight
do I
red.
revive? Okay, hey.
Hey.
Really?
You're getting out?
The
That's
game-
not good.
The game glitched. Guess what's also A?
Get out of fire armor.
So I'm locked here.
I
Awkward.
died.
My screen's gonna cause me to have a seizure.
I'm watching something, but I don't know what I'm watching.
They're gonna
Oh,
kill
can't
me
make her
because
leg-
I can't
I
do
can't really see 'em.
anything.
This is like seizure-inducing here. I'm like glitched inside of someone, and the game's doing this like really
What
flashing
in
at
the
me.
world is happening?
You've entered God mode. They can't kill you.
But they took my power armor.
Oh, he's taking damage.
I'm dead.
There you go. Awkward.
That was... That's Bethesda.
That's a beta. I mean, come on, pump the brakes. Everyone was like bashing this so hard on the freaking internet. I'm sitting here like, one, it's a beta. First and foremost, it's a freaking beta. Everyone's like complaining about like the stuff that's not in the
Am I
game.
quitting
like,
or
oh,
no?
there's no. I guess so. I think we're still on the team regardless, right? It should stick us in theory, and I don't know.
Well, I just quit, so.
Yeah, I quit too. Like, when it's a beta, everyone's like, oh, there's no ping system, there's no crawl, and I'm like, it's freaking beta. Its odds are going to be coming to the game.
Can somebody invite me into the team again? I
actually
left
pre-beta.
that before leaving Ward.
Yeah, you're right, it is pre-beta, it's not even technically beta.
Sir,
So,
later
yeah, we're
left
just
the
sticking it in.
team. He doesn't love us.
I can, okay, I can. Friends. Lagna. About the team. There's like a lot of the bashing it's getting is just it's unwarranted. And then whenever everyone's talking about, oh my god, the older Fallouts are better. Fallout 4 is even better. And I'm like, Fallout 4, this game runs on the Fallout 4 game engine. It's like literally Fallout 4 without the freaking story.
Well, to me, Horde A might have not been the best decision for Revive.
Right. Well, what you need to do is go jump on their forum and say, hey, Bethesda. I mean, like, it works fine whenever you're playing, like, normal game. It could have just been just a glitch, more than anything.
Because, like, I was like, oh, I'll defend this, I'll heal you, I'll heal you. I'm in power armor, most likely it'll get damaged, but I'll still survive.
Right.
And having 3 against 2, high chance we'll win.
So I'm guessing it's one of those fluky things where, cause like I said, I know whenever I revived you before, I never got out of my power armor. I never had that issue.
I think that is a poor button choice.
It is, and they probably could fix it down the road.
In reality, no, I'm talking about game overall. Because in reality, it should have been like VATS.
Oh, we're pre-stage, okay.
Yep. Because it should have been VATS. It should have been the button that would have caused the least issues.
Yeah. Well, I mean, technically, you can use VAT, like, in later parts of the game, you can use VATS a lot whenever you get, your stamina very high, or your AP up.
Well, I'm saying, yes, but the thing is if you miss VATS, the worst thing that will happen is your character will turn towards an enemy. Okay? With VATS up. The best case is it will heal the appropriate character.
Well, is there a way I can customize my view here, or my character?
We did do it.
I could always be a naked man.
No, I did it before when I was trying to figure out how to change characters.
Well, I mean, you can access your apparel. But I was wondering if there's a way you could put on, like, other clothes. Like stuff that, like, you bought from the...
No, right now it seems like everyone's just in Vault 51 suits.
I've seen a few people walking around in normal clothes.
There might be some option in the main menu. Oh, I'm at the bar. Anyone wants a drink?
Hey, baby, sure, we're playing soccer.
Drink? No drink.
But it's a soccer balls, yeah, I mean, play some soccer. Here's your scores! Go!
I got some cups here. Drinks, anyone? Okay, I'll go play some pool. Oh, I could play the piano.
Huh, front desk terminal. I can access the terminal. Deceased, deceased, deceased. That's funny.
Okay, so
Oh
where
boy,
do
are
we
we
want to
deploying?
go?
Oh, we're deploying now. I don't know. Hey, it is night. Oh wait, no, it's different. I say we go over here where I'm at. You see where I'm at?
Yep.
That's where I want to be.
Join you. Match begins.
Oh, there's
in
like
3,
10 dots all
2,
around us.
1.
Good run, good spot.
Not really.
Should have gone top left. We should have gone top left.
The relay station.
Or the river cabins.
Well, I'm going
There's
to
people
say
all
we
around
head
us.
north. I say we head north.
Yeah, we want to head
We're
north,
gonna die.
northwest.
Going to die down there. Governor.
I'm kind of not too happy. Oh, I know what I should have done last match.
What's that?
I had a wall I could have dropped.
Hmm.
That would have protected us a little bit.
Well, excuse me, it wouldn't have mattered because you got glitched out of your power armor anyway, so.
Yeah.
Unless you were able to move, I couldn't tell. Like once you got
No.
out, you were stuck.
No, in my game it never showed me out.
Ooh, there's a box. My stuff. And I got wood armor and a submachine gun.
You suck ass.
Well, there's 3 boxes.
I mean, all these boxes are mine. You can't have them. I got a crossbow and a ski sword. I don't know, you're gonna give Scam the ski sword?
I got a nuke code.
Nice. Got a radiation suit. What'd you get, Scam? You got a crossbow. So we need to head north.
And I got a sword. A ski
go, guys.
sword.
I
Yeah.
got space mine.
Yeah. Yeah.
Leroy Stinkins.
So it looks like your up D-pad gives you access to a bunch of easy access for a bunch of
Yeah.
important items, like any guns. And
Yeah, it
stuff.
puts it on the wheel.
I have no armor. I am but
Hey,
pimped.
camp over here.
Okay,
Stem pack extra, anyone wants it? Don't forget stem packs, right button. Or right on the D-pad.
I don't do that.
It's probably a full heal, I'm guessing. Oh, red rocket. Straight ahead, boys. Let's go loot it.
Y'all get
Boy, the
sniped as
lag
running
is
down
spiking.
the street.
That's what I'm saying. You're gonna like watch my deck just explode. Like, it's to the left. No one seems to be here. No one looted it. Mine. Western revolver, wood armor. I shouldn't have taken that armor. I'm so sorry. I'm such a bad friend.
Wow.
It's just instinctual for me to just grab everything, even if I don't need it, just to have it. Can I drop the wood armor? Yeah, I drop your wood armor here. Here, Scam. It's right here. It's in this plastic bag. Wood armor. Oh, you got armor.
So goofy looking.
Got
Ski sword, I'll grab it.
Got 2 nuke codes.
Yeah. Nice. Keep looting them. I hear bullets nearby. There's water. Get some water. Get some agua. Ooh, another box. Shotgun overdrive. Double barrel shotgun. Someone just randomly died. Oh, they got killed by something. An explosive bobblehead. I guess I get explosive boost. Another box. Hunting rifle, machete, wood armor. If anyone doesn't have any armor. I'll take the 10mm. Take the ammo.
Oh, you still have to equip everything.
A nuclear what?
Okay,
I
of
stood
course.
back.
I got Buffett.
Was that? Oh, there's players here,
Okay.
guys. Is that not
There
you?
go.
That's like, no, okay, I couldn't tell.
Yeah,
A box.
changed.
Shotgun, Stimpak Extra, double barrel shotgun if you want it. There's another player near us, I just saw him run by.
Oh my gosh,
Stormtrooper.
something from the left side.
Oh god!
Something from the left side.
Another box. A hunting rifle, I'll take it.
Oh,
Oh,
god.
guys, I got a rocket launcher.
He's to the left. He's to the left. He's coming to kill me.
I don't see him.
I was able to pick up his name tag.
Alright, I'm in the ravine over here. I'm crossing the river.
You got
I'm being
something
shot at.
following you.
It's a puppy.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
He's just
Okay.
hungry.
Okay, I killed it.
I'm being
Fine.
shot in the ass.
Got some, player.
Another player.
Either a grenade. I'm
That was me.
dead.
That was me, my grenade. I come around the other side. I don't see him.
He ran across the bridge.
I don't. No, he did.
Yep.
Alright, I'll revive you. Oh, Scam got you.
Yeah, Scam got me.
Everything's already been looted over here.
We're getting radiation.
First aid, nothing's in it. Everything's over here been looted. Guess we keep going north. Sucks is I only have one clip of ammo left. I do got another gun. Let's see what other guns I got.
Coming in. So we can't go actually much
Submachine
further
gun.
north.
Oh, is it coming south?
I'm being shot in the back.
Where are you?
Oh, yeah, you gotta go south. You're
I'm
right.
being shot in the back. I'm
I'm
being
not sure
shot
it's
at.
hitting you.
It's coming from down there towards Legna. Ow.
Oh, I see. Yeah, I see it. I see the bullets. I see it to the right. I saw the right arrow. I don't know where he's at.
Oh,
I
that's.
see the ring of fire.
Whenever we do this, we have to play this with our highest level characters, because you unlock port cards, but if your character doesn't have enough points, you can't put the port card on.
It's on. Oh, gotcha.
Because right now I have spiritual healer, and
That fire's
use
getting
it.
really close, guys. That fire's getting really
we're
close.
good. We're in the safe zone. We're just barely in the safe zone, but we're in the safe zone.
I guess we'll just move with the fire, I guess, right?
We can, as long as we keep moving it.
Oh, storm subsided. There was another player around here, guys. I guess just keep your eyes open. Still might be over here.
I am.
Oh, I'm being shot. He's to the right. I don't know where he's at, though.
He's behind the tree. Okay.
I don't see him, though.
Need to-
Skim's in here, getting all deep black.
I'm looking for him. Anyone see him?
I'm going wide
I'm
right,
dead.
and then I'll come around the backside.
Scam, you're behind him.
Yep.
Scam's dead.
Oh my god. Come on, man. I hit him with both with 3 shotguns. And 3 came up crit.
I'm gonna die. And I'm dead.
Was I able to
Oh, he's to
kill
the
him?
right. He's
Perhaps?
to the right. He's to the right.
I'm dead again.
Like, you're the only one alive.
I shot him in the face.
The black and one.
I shot him in the face with the pistol.
Now we get to watch you guys.
He took 4 shotgun shells.
I know, I'm watching the guy who killed me. Oh, we're all dead. Okay, never mind.
Yeah, we all died.
So yeah, we're gonna want our highest characters because I got a couple of port cards that I was like, I can't use.
Alright, I guess when we go back to the menu, I'll swap characters in.
Yep.
It's not bad. I mean, the lag would be nice. If there was no lag, it'd be nice.
How do you guys get
But, I
back
mean,
to the main menu without leaving the team?
I guess not. Everyone left the team. Or did the team scam?
I didn't mean to.
I don't blame you. I did the same thing.
My
Oh,
thing,
look, Logan left the team.
well, my thing kept saying if I wanted to leave the ward, I had to leave the team.
That's awkward. I don't know. All right, I'm a higher character now, so I guess I'll use that. Fight the team.
Yes. I'm guessing that's my highest character.
Unless it does that thing where it'll always be your rank or whatever, maybe.
No.
We'll see whenever we start again.
No, because I had 3 points in luck.
Invite me in game because it didn't accept it.
Okay. I can
I think
remove
I've gotten it
friend,
in time.
block for session, I can report you. It says you're on the... nope, it says you... It says you're already invited. I can't invite you again, you gotta find it.
But I don't see where I can go to and do it.
Well, just go,
Go
to
down to
and
social
hit join
and then
team.
team. Yeah, or just join us manually,
Social.
buddy.
Oh, go down to social.
Yeah, social. Yeah, and then there's like 3 tabs.
There's nothing under team.
Try
Don't
friends
go
then
to
maybe, and
team,
then just
go
find us
to
and join.
friends, and then join us.
One of us. One of us.
It doesn't say join. Like under Michael, it says mute, send message, view profile, block for session, remove friend, report
Okay,
player.
there we go.
Under
We're good.
Selegna, mute, send message.
I got you. You can do it now.
You
Where's
joined
that? You
too.
joined.
I did.
It did that cooldown thing where after a minute it was like, oh, you can invite him again. Like, okay.
I think I'm the highest character. My highest character doesn't actually show up. So we'll find out. Because I had 2 port cards that I was like, I can't use these. Now my question is the port cards pointing to one?
I don't think so. I think they're interchangeable. Just like they've always been.
Well,
Oh, you mean the fear you got to choose.
yeah, the question is it in between games, or is it once you unlock it, you get it for all of the Wasteland Battle Royale mode? Because if that's the case, then it's just going to be experience wins.
Right.
Whoever has the highest ranking character so that they can equip all the porks, and then whoever's played the longest in this mode so that they have all the porks unlocked. Let's see. That gives you 7 winter porks. Increase your by participating, get new port cards. Complete challenges to get port cards. You can't change the cards once the match begins. Okay. Cards require special to equip. Increase your special by equipping powerful cards. What? Equip 7 cards at best fit. Okay. So I'm confused. So I unlocked them for the other character. Ugh, this
Yeah.
sucks.
Yeah, it's not combined. Then again, it is still pre-alpha, so I mean,
Oh yeah.
or alpha, I guess. So it kind of
So
they might fix that later.
it might not actually be what I thought it was originally. it might be you unlock the cards, and then at the beginning of the match in this mode right here,
I'm
you're
being
able
jumped.
to
Help me, guys.
adjust.
I'm being jumped by like 5. Oh my goodness. I'm getting my ass beat. Oh. Oh. It stings. Cool. Really? You're going to be that guy?
Oh my goodness, they're so bad. Did you find out how to change our attire?
They're coming to get me.
Mm,
It looks like everyone's wearing the same thing.
But I've seen some people wearing other uniforms or outfits. Unless they're NPCs.
I think that's when
but
you're
I
in
don't
there.
know.
no, I've seen.
Like, you don't see this person over here wearing a coat?
Einhorn is Finkel. Finkel is Einhorn.
You don't see these people over here wearing coats?
I took a shower. Took a sweet shower.
Okay.
Nothing clean. Unless you get them through the chest, maybe.
There might
Sure, I'd love to
be-
Oh wait,
on
no,
them,
those
sure.
are
They
video
might
codes.
be.
And
Silly
just
me.
watch this painting of nonsense.
Oh, you can open the item shop in here.
Modified stem
Oh,
packs,
you-
huh?
I'm outside.
Now we're about to deploy. Nuclear briefcase. Oh boy, here we go. Where we're
Okay.
dropping.
I think we should go up to right between Alpine River Cabins and Flatwood Lookout.
I mean, isolate the cabin.
No, applying.
Flatwoods Lookout and Alpine River Cabins.
Oh.
Right near
Okay.
the top.
Sounds good to me. Oh boy. If you're gonna start over there and scout it out, I mean,
Well, my thing is, there's most likely nothing in the middle of nowhere land.
oh boy, oh boy, good luck, guys. I guess first to loot it,
boy.
loot it wins.
Oh boy. Okay,
I'm going to
it
Flatwoods
still gets
Lookout.
one there.
Yeah, you guys take care of that. I'm going to Flatwoods. We'll see how it goes.
That's good. Not like we need a team or anything. 3
You
people
two will be fine.
almost guaranteed could beat one person.
You two will be fine.
Yeah, except when we both
I
go
believe in
down.
you.
In the mouth.
But like, but you guys saw where I'm spawning, right? I'm spawning like dead in the middle between the 2 points. By the time I get there, you two could be dead.
Yes,
I
and then
believe
you
in you
could
two.
pick us up.
But I can go towards a point, look where no one's at. Get like the armor and
I kind of
minigun.
hope. I kind of hope that you start your travel there, and somebody snipes you, and we go, well, we can't
Yes,
get
and your
to
head
you.
falls off.
No. No. You know what's gonna happen? I'm gonna run over there, and there's gonna be like big super mutants waiting for me, and they're gonna pound me into the dirt. You know?
Yeah,
That's how I'm going to die.
kind of
Just like what happened on the first game, whenever Scam's watching me get
You ready
chased by
like
this
that?
like lobster. Okay. I'm going north.
Okay, how do I get
I'm going
to
north,
this
right?
cabin?
Here we go. East. Heading east. I found a box. I found a box.
No,
I got a
found the
submachine gun. I'm going to
enemy.
live. Y'all kill. Y'all got him, right?
No, I don't have any weapons, and I don't see him anymore because we're all invisible. There you go.
You become uninvisible whenever you pick
Help
something.
me!
That's how it
Right
works.
behind you, like, nah.
I know he is.
Oh,
I
this
don't
game
have
is dying.
anything.
He's hiding behind me. Ah, he's punching me. Ah, he's punching me. Ow. Ow.
I don't-
I'm so sorry, guys.
He's in the cabin with me, like, nah. Be careful. I'm just gonna die. He's to the left of me. To your right. Behind me. He's behind me.
Yep.
Oh boy. Y'all get to watch me die. This is going to be fun.
Yes. Hint why I was like,
Ah.
let's be together as a team.
Really? That one guy took both of you out. Do you really think I'm gonna go there and die?
He
with
has
him?
a really good weapon.
I
Yes.
thought he was
pistol
punching you.
That was pow. And then it had to reload. And then pow. And he goes to there.
It's okay, guys. I got a cultist blade.
And I tried to grab a
And-
weapon.
I think I might have a grenade launcher up here. I got grenades. I got a pillow. I can sleep. I can sleep and wait it out. A board.
Okay.
With a crate.
This is why I like playing battle royales with people who stay as a team.
I know. I agree with teamwork. I'm on your side. But like, y'all decided. Wait, I was told. Hey, guess where I was told to spawn? I was told to spawn in between the 2 points. So I chose in between the 2 points. You two decided you guys were going to go spawn on the spot. Y'all didn't, like, clarify, oh, we're spawning here. I would have moved my marker, but I couldn't move it late enough.
Well,
And I wasn't going to run over there and...
Well, I was going to spawn there and run up to you guys with whatever was going to follow me, if anything.
Probably. Small guns. I think I'm using a small gun. Oh, I'm overcumbered. No, I'm not.
No.
I could just hide in here.
No, you can't. The storm will get you.
Storm will never get me. Too bad I can't, like, sit there or sit in the seat with my gun aimed at the door.
I can tell you from here that you still have to cross the river, get through Greene County Lodge before you even get into the circle. So yes, the storm will get you.
Not now, though. I mean, I still got plenty of time to wait.
15 seconds.
Yeah.
Someone's gonna come in here to loot, and they're gonna get shot in the face.
Chance of somebody coming in to go to where the storm's closing, very unlikely.
I'm actually overcumbered, so I need to drop something.
Nuclear briefcase.
Don't need all these combat knives.
Storm's halfway there.
That'll be fine. Don't need all this wood armor. I want the Gatling cannon.
3/4 of the way there.
And why is it not favorited?
It's almost on top of you.
Oh my goodness. That's a fire. It gets inside now. It gets upside now.
No, like I said, you still have to cross the river, and you're dead.
I am burning. I'm burning for you.
You're dead. You're gonna die.
It's too hot to be outside. But did somebody come into that door?
Moving quicker than you are, bud.
You guys wondering, did somebody come into that door?
That's so mean. You're gonna burn to death.
I try to give you ample
I thought it
warning.
moved slower than that. I think it was gonna. I saw where the flame was originally. I'm like, I got plenty of time. Looked up and I'm like, there's a fire.
I was like, it's already halfway there. 3/4 of the way there. It's on top of you. Oh, look, fire.
I guess we'll just quit here and. Oh, we're at the 2-hour mark. It's up to you.
We could do one more if you guys want.
And I did it again. Dang it, you have to invite me.
Well, it does it automatically though. There's not really no choice.
Yeah, because it says by performing this action, you leave your team, and I'm like, but I want to take my team with me.
With me.
I'm also
I guess I
gonna
don't do
change
that. I
back
mean,
into
I've seen. I think Call of Duty does the same thing too, though. Like whenever we would leave Battle Royale, the game's like, nah. If I recall.
I changed back into Lucky because I have a couple of port cards and I want to see if I can equip them without the level or if I need the level to equip them.
Gotcha.
Because
You might need the level. That's probably how that was set up.
if you need the level, then I think the game's broken. But if you don't need the level, then I think it'll be fine.
Well, once again, you got to go off of the mentality that
This is
they're setting it up
Bethesda.
based on people who have played. Well, no, they're basing it on people who play the game enough where this isn't like someone starting new. This isn't like I'm sure
But the
75%
thing
of their
is
player base.
let's say I get up to whatever. I played this game for 24 hours straight, and I'm up to whatever level. And I have 3 cards of 3 points, okay? So 9 points total.
Mhm.
But the character I played in Fallout is only level 8 in that stat. Well, I can't equip all 9 cards now. Like,
Well, there's a way
there
to
has
move
to
your-
be
well,
a
you have to-
balance somewhere, but I do not agree with...
You decline my team invite scam.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I'm playing by myself now.
I accepted.
I don't think I can invite you. I think we have to quit now to go pick you back up.
You're fine. Go ahead and do
Someone
it.
new.
It's fine.
No, we're gonna pick you back up. We're going in together. Because
Don't worry about it.
because you need like 3 or 4 people anyways. You can't like you need multiple people. We're gonna play. Might as well play.
I think I'm starting to figure out how this works. Is this how I think it does? Nope. So nope, you're gonna want whatever character you have as the highest.
Highest.
I don't agree with it. So are we dropping out or what?
I pulled out to go get scam.
Okay.
We never leave a soldier behind.
That sucks. I personally do not like that. I personally think if the character is played in the Battle Royale mode, the cards they get should be equipable up to a limit of whatever. And it looked like it had a limit. It looks like you only can equip 1 card at a time, which I would be fine with.
But you can stack all the cards like you could in the other modes, right?
No, you can't. You only can equip 1 card for each stat.
Gotcha. Okay.
So what I would have, if I was Bethesda, what I would have done was like as soon as you unlock the card in Wasteland or whatever, you can use it. Okay. Why can I join team for either of you?
You already joined,
Oh.
I think.
Well,
Thought you joined. If not, I'm gonna have to back out again.
you're gonna have to back out again because again, when you back out, you leave team.
I got a day going by myself. Look at that.
Mine's loaded.
Like normal. Oh no, yeah, scam loaded. Nah.
You invited
Gotta back out
Scam,
and go.
So I
but
need to
didn't
leave, or-
re-invite me.
Yeah, we need to leave again.
Again, there's a lot of problems with Battle Royale games that I'm just... Fortnite got it right. I have no clue why no one went... Everyone wanted to copy the Battle Royale mode, and no one went, how do Fortnite bring teams into them? No one went, we should copy that as well.
Well, Fortnite does that, right? Where you can, like, when you leave, you bring team with you.
Whenever you do anything, it's a team action. So if you leave a game, your team leaves a game with you. Well,
you.
not necessarily
Right,
leaves
that's
the
what I'm
game with you, but like when you get back to the main
Yeah, everyone's
menu,
here.
it will
No.
show you your team members and invite Scam.
Okay, now I joined, okay.
Remember to invite Scam.
Yeah, we're all here. We're all here. We're all here.
But the thing,
That's weird. I think it actually pulled scam with me.
yeah,
Unless he joined again, I couldn't tell.
it's weird. Sometimes it seems like it does. Sometimes it seems like it doesn't. But to me, with the port card system, I would have made it where once you got the port card, you get to assign one at each level, but once you've unlocked it in Wasteland, you get it for the entirety of Wasteland. Maybe not for all your characters, because I can understand a little bit on why you might want different characters, but you unlock it for Wasteland for that character. So no matter what level that character
What
is
define
at,
Wasteland?
the Battle Royale.
Okay.
They call it Wasteland.
Oh yeah, gotcha. My brain's like, yeah, Winter Wasteland. My bad. I'm sitting here, my brain's like, wait a minute, what is he talking about? Words confused me.
And
Gotcha. Okay.
And to me, that would be a better game because then the character you play in single player is not directly related in any fashion or form to the character you play otherwise.
Right.
So it's not like, oh, I have to play 48 hours of single player to get a balanced max level character to then be able to play Wasteland so that any porks I get I can use.
That awkward moment whenever I found a holotip that I can't pick up until I'm level 56.
They have ranking here. That's cool. So the little blue
Well,
box is good, the yellow box is better, and then the red box is the best. Like the red stash box.
Mm.
Make sure you have books you want to equip before leaving. I'm pretty sure I have no additional books, so.
Mm.
But this character has all the levels so that when I do get porks, I can actually use them.
Mm-hmm. What's over here? Gotta go in here. Has to be level 20. It is unique how they built the overworld.
Oh yeah, since we can look at the map right now, any place we want to land, I kind of like that location that you had it at.
Well, I'm trying to think where no one's gonna be spawning.
Well,
Sonicum Joe's maybe? Up at the top.
I say
We have 30 seconds to decide.
no, we don't. We have 30 seconds. Then we have to start deciding. I say on the road between, so that at worst we jump across the river and go to the isolated cabin or the lighthouse. At best, we hit either
sounds good.
mine or the Joe. Like, I don't mind this mode. The only thing I don't like about it is the perk system. Just because it ties into the single player mode and it doesn't feel right.
Well, like I'm saying, it's designed.
Or redeploy.
With the top.
We
It's designed where it's already, you're already expected to already have your character up to a certain
Oh yes.
level,
and
pretty
it's
much.
in beta, and I'm imagining when they fix it, they're gonna just basically once you get it, you use it because that's the only smart idea I can see. Really,
Well, in the load, well, when you first start the game up, it shows
Oh
you
my
that.
goodness.
I accidentally
Oh,
clicked
shit.
myself. So you guys are gonna want to go to the Overseer camp on the other side of the river.
Oh God, where did you go?
I'm at Scrum Joe.
So am I. We're all here.
I'm in Scrum Joe.
So am I.
You guys are gonna want to hop
So am I.
over the river.
I'm not going over there. I'm not gonna have any weapons.
You're not gonna have.
I'm gonna go
you're
grab
not gonna
a
have
gun.
any life with the 8 people around you.
Well, if I end up with a Gatling gun, I'm going to be fine.
Yeah, and then somebody's gonna snipe you, and you're gonna be like, "Oh my Gatling
I'll
gun."
be fine. Exactly. I'm glad I could give that. Glad I could find that for you.
I just wanted to show it off before selling it to you for free.
Or giving it for free. For free. Buy one get one free. And my wood armor too. You want that too? Yeah, take my wood armor. Damn.
No,
This was like
I'm
literally
going
where,
south
like-
to the Overseer's camp as soon as I get up.
I'm going to go run into a building and loot it out. Alright, Scam, you ready, buddy? Oh boy.
I'm gonna take my invisible self
Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh
over
boy.
to the overseer's camp.
I'll get all the stuff. Get all the stuff.
What's in here?
You're near me, right?
Plasma,
There's a revolver in that thing back there.
check back.
I don't know if there's any bullets though.
Okay, I'm coming to you guys.
Up. You're just gonna sit there and hog the box? Did you get what you needed? You don't want them, I'll take them. Bobblehead, I'll take it. Oh, I think Scam went AFK.
I'm coming to you.
I'm running towards you.
Yep.
Okay, we can run where you want to go now. I got a gun.
We're going up south.
Oh, Scam's moving. Come on, Scam, let's go!
I was like, I'm just gonna head to the overseer's camp.
My controller ended up dying.
Gotcha. I was like, you're walking and then you just stopped and I panicked. I'm like, oh god, you're like standing where I need to go. So I like literally took all that stuff out of the box that you will have probably needed.
Yeah.
Yeah,
you did.
let's jump here. Let's
I mean, it was only a stim bag. I mean,
scout Sarton.
well, there's buildings over to the left we can try to loot out.
Yeah, I was like, please tell me you're not going in the wrong direction.
There's a box over to the left. What's in it?
I got a box.
Anything I can do?
Submachine gun, med-X, take it, Ricky.
Got a bobblehead.
I think I ended up picking up a small guns bobblehead. Oh god, some shooting.
My goodness. Where's that coming from?
I killed him.
Nice. Oh, he's not dead, is he?
No.
How do you melee? There you go.
You like the tea bags?
We got him.
You like the tea bags?
He had nothing in him.
What? There's a safe. Okay, I'll pick it, guys.
I'm gonna shut the
Picked it.
door.
Stealth boy if anyone wants it. I'm taking the marine armor. I'll drop the wood armor if anyone wants it.
I love some wood armor.
I'll take the stealth board.
He likes the wood. I'll go upstairs and see what's up here.
Yep.
Automatic pipe rifle if anyone wants it.
I fell through.
Blade.
Expired stim pack. That might not do anything for me.
Ammo.
Alright, you guys ready to go out?
Oh, I get 5%
Yes.
damage when in team.
There's a dog out there waiting for us.
Bright ward. The ward is bright.
So we're going south still?
Yeah, we need to go south. still.
Radiation!
Storm's moving. Oh, player! Y'all with me?
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm trying to track
It's over
him.
here. He killed me! Help! Help! He's killing me! It's a Gatling gun! Don't let me die!
Well, for whatever reason, my gun wasn't working.
Oh boy. This is not good.
Yep, I'm dead.
He has a Gatling though, so I mean, it probably... Or Scam! Where's our buddy?
I don't have any ammo.
I think Scam's meleeing him to death.
What the world?
Mm-hmm.
What did you kill me with? I blew up.
You might have
I never
dropped a
saw anything
mine.
get thrown. Well, yeah, that's a good armor. Unless it's my armor I just picked up. Oh, that was fun.
Yep. I don't think the mode is messed up over, like, in the mode itself. I just think the perk system is. Everything else I think is actually really fine. What's your all's opinion?
I don't mind the perk system because everyone levels up at the same pace, and I'm guessing everyone gets the same cards. I'm speculating, so I mean, it's just play it to get the cards.
And play the
My
single
game
player to get the level.
My game froze.
Oh, poor you.
Blah.
So I love when that happens.
Okay.
But the thing is, like, by now you should have a leveled up character and be good enough into it where you're not going to have that issue.
It kicked me all the way to the.
I agree, except you couldn't have known what perks you were gonna get for this mode. There's no way you could know. So unless you're willing to level up more to adjust your character specifically for this mode, like, let's say I've been playing this game for, let's say I've put in 100 hours into this game, okay? But I was playing my lucky character, where literally the only thing I leveled up was luck. Okay? I go into this mode and I have, let's say, 15 level of luck, and I get a endurance card, a level 3 endurance, and I have a 1 in endurance, and I'm like, well, guess I gotta go back to single player mode and move my perks around.
Or you just start a new character with the build that you want for this mode. I mean, that's...
And then put in the hours for that.
Yeah.
Like, that's the issue is, for me to play a mode I want to play, I have to put in hours in a different mode that I may or may not want to really play anymore.
But the thing is, it's not gonna, it shouldn't really, because I don't know the final perk cards you get for the mode. I can't imagine them being game breaking enough where you need more than 5 points slotted to something where you can't assign the perk.
You would need, I would imagine, let's see, what's the highest perk card that you can get? I think it's only 3.
3? Yeah.
So you'd need at least a 3, assuming that they didn't break that in this mode. You need at least a 3 on every stat.
I have 3 on every stat. I actually built my character with that mentality, and everyone generally should, because you're going to want that 3. You left. Goodbye.
I agree.
Parting is such sweet sorrow.
I agree with you on that sense. Like, yes, in a proper play, you should have, but what I'm saying is it shouldn't matter in this mode. This mode should be not as related to single player as possible. This should be a standalone mode.
I do agree. I agree with that part of it. Where it wouldn't like all battle royales have that where it doesn't, like, nothing affects it. It's just literally drop in, grab something, and go. It's just Fallout has their twist on it where there's a perk system, and obviously it is tied to your single player character. So I guess just play the game.
I mean, I don't mind the perk system. I kind of like it because it gives a value to even playing the mode. It's kind of like It's kind of like roguelike, where some of them let you, like, carry items or stuff between deaths. Which I don't mind, because especially Battle Royale is very well known for die a billion times and you might win one round.
Yeah, exactly.
So, like, to me, I'm like, at least this, it gives me the sense of I'm achieving something. Even if I was the very first one to die in the mode. But I don't like how it's tied to single. That's the only issue. I personally, I think this is a fresh twist on Battle Royale. I think this is...
Okay, now, would it ease your query on it if they had put in little parentheses at the end of the statement recommended for players level 20 or higher. Would that literally? I mean, I do agree with their original statement on it shouldn't be tied at all to it. But if they at least put that on there, would at least ease your query just enough.
I would say that's a hot patch to a bigger issue that they should have just fixed. And in reality, I agree. It might be like you play the single player mode at least up to level 20 just to be able to play this mode. But to me, I'm like, this mode by itself could have been Fallout 76.
Yeah, exactly. That could have really, ultimately, big picture, could have been their take on Battle Royale. And what you said, what they could have done is just have everyone's player be level 6. Give you, your base cards in the beginning, and then as you level up, you get cards, and then you can interchange them as you go based on your playstyle.
Yeah.
For this game mode.
And that's what I was kind of hoping is, like, it all mattered on the card, not the player. So, like, to me, that would actually make a lot more dynamics, okay? Because, leveling up a stat gives you certain, like, in-pork benefits other than just the card alone, right? So, like,
right.
Strength lets you carry more and all that stuff. My mindset was, like, it'd be really cool. Hey, you're not going to be able to really level up your character in this mode because it won't make as logical sense. So instead, you get control on what your stat values for your character is based on the cards you put on. So if you want 3 stat value in strength, you have to get a level 3 stat value in strength card and then equip it for that.
Yeah.
One. And I'm like, that would have been perfect.
That would have been better, yeah. I agree. Your character's built on your deck, pretty much.
Yeah. And you still can keep the 1 card limit. I think the 1 card limit's actually a really good balancing mode for this mode. But because then I would have
I agree.
I would have literally done it like a scaling gameplay. You play 10 games, you get a card, you play the next 20 games, you get another card, next 30, so on and so forth. Because what I would have done then is every time you get it, it's a random card shift. And guess what? Now you can do microtransactions. Because guess what? The game's balanced no matter what cards the people have.
In theory, yeah.
Because at worst, somebody has all level 3 cards, okay? Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
They still only have 1 instance of all those level 3 cards. So as long as you put enough cards in that counteract each other, there really should never be a thing. You start falling into the card game motif of as long as you balance the cards, the game itself will remain balanced.
Mm-hmm.
And then they could done what is the company? Blizzard does with a lot of their games, where as soon as they detect imbalance, they add more cards to counter out the balance.
The other cards.
And that's all they do. Fallout 76. We add cards every 3 months to just balance out the game so players can keep playing it. We have microtransactions so the players that keep playing it pay money every now and then, and we can keep this business afloat.
Mm-hmm.
But rant away. I wasted most likely like 15 minutes or whoever was watching's life listening to my rant. Hopefully, it's a Bethesda chief engineer and they listen to me and fix it, because I honestly think this mode literally saves Fallout 76. If they add those fixes
if they had pumped more content into it, I think it'd have been fine.
Yes, but the great
like
thing
they planned
about
on doing anyways.
The great thing about this mode is they don't have to pump in content. This is a cheap pump in of content.
It is, yes. It is a play to whatever's hot at the moment.
Yeah, and in my opinion, if they would have started Fallout 76 in this mode, and then took the extra time to develop the single player mode and tack that on, I don't think anyone would have ever complained about Fallout 76.
I do agree. I think it would have been perceived a lot better. I don't know if I could. The tricky thing though is you couldn't have charged $60 for. I mean, I don't know. It's one of those really like however you view it. I don't know if you could really charge $60 for the battle royale though.
No, I would have most likely charged 30, with the belief that there will be a single player DLC in the heart of the original Fallout series.
Yeah.
I mean, the Atom Shop they could have kept, because that's fine, that's perfect. And everything else they really could have kept. Now, they definitely would have wanted to at least release the single player mode 6 months to a year after the initial drop of the game. Just because that's when you're going to get your first dip in players, and you definitely want to pick that back up business-wise. But, I don't know. I think overall it was not a bad game. But I think...
I say we keep this going for about another 3 minutes here.
Why
I'm going to push that timestamp just for another 3.
Why another 3 minutes?
Because then it gives me a... I'm weird. It gives me a straight 15. Or
Okay.
that section. I'm weird.
Yeah,
It's so
most
much
likely have
easier
to
to cut the
download this
video.
and chop it so that it just has that rant, and then upload that rant into
That's what I'm
the
doing.
video.
That's why I'm sitting here like, this is going to another 3 minutes, and I could literally just like chop that into a little corner and say, plus rant at the end.
Mhm. Oh no, I'm gonna literally
It's not
pop
really a
the
rant,
rant
it's just-
into its own and be like, fix for fix for Fallout 76, since a lot of people like posting videos on that. Get some search reviews. How to play YouTube.
I guess the biggest question looking forward is how much is the game going to evolve over the next 6 months? 'Cause that's kind of, I guess, what their next battle plan is.
Well, so now the scary thing is they have two different ways. They could evolve the single player or this new battle royale. And I think that's going to be too much for them. I think one of the two modes are going to start suffering. I hope not, because in reality, the battle royale mode actually like sparked ideas and stuff in my head of like, this game actually doesn't suck.
Well, I guess on the bright side, unlike maybe 3/4 of the games that are out, so far, in my opinion, they've stuck to their roadmap that they released, back 4 months ago.
Oh yeah.
With everything that's supposed to be happening over the next year, is like they're on pace. They haven't fallen off. They haven't been like, oh my god, we got to push everything back. #Anthem.
I actually recently saw a game that said Anthem is like Titanfall but worse or something like that.
No, it's definitely on its last string, just barely trying to grip on for dear life. I mean, I don't know. I haven't really played it. I don't know how strong the fan base truly is compared to what everyone's saying, but it's... Like I said, Bethesda's on pace. They're doing their thing.
But,
I mean...
But to me, I personally, I think Nuclear Winter... Sorry, I said Wasteland in the video. Nuclear Winter, I think, is hopefully a thing that will get the community back for Fallout 76. And then I'm hoping with the introduction of NPCs and hopefully factions and all that, that it can maybe carry itself upwards, sadly, it's most likely gonna get listed as like those No Man's Sky games where the game sucked at the beginning, but gave it a year and a half, and it got to the actual game I wanted to buy in the first point.
But like, I don't understand it, man. I still don't understand. Everyone complains about this game, and it's like it is what it was advertised to be. Like, it's not like Bethesda lied. It's not like, you know.
I think the only issue is when Bethesda said we're gonna have the single player like story in an open world with multiple characters or multiple players. I think people envisioned a very far different game than what Bethesda gave. But it wasn't
I mean,
a lot.
it was
the game
structure
they said.
of the game, though.
It was the game they said. I just think with people's imaginations and stuff, it's not the game they thought they said. And I think
but it's
once
one of those crazy
they
things
add
where
NPCs and factions back, I think maybe they could start swaying it back. Because the real downside to this game is it doesn't have a lot of role-playing aspects.
But you really can't have that in an online multiplayer game. It's an MMO. I mean, you really can't. It's like when you cover your eyes. I mean, all the games are the same. It's just pick an aesthetic.
You know that?
The layout's always going to be the same. It's going to be NPC here, go fetch item here, bring it back, I give you gold, and then you take gold and buy what you want for yourself. I mean, it's the same. That's what I'm looking for here. It's the same.
I know that because you and me both know the original RuneScape, where here's all this quest. Now you have people just gathering around points because that's the quest point everyone goes to.
Exactly.
So you and me both
it's been the
know
structure
that.
since the beginning. It's a never fail structure, but everyone gets so upset. Like, I wanted, like, whenever everyone's complaining about it's not as good as the previous games, I'm like, you can't have that narrative in an online game. You could. I mean, theory they could, but like I said, it still follows all the other stuff. It still follows the Anthem structure, the Destiny structure. It's all going to be the same structure.
Yes. And you and me
Here's
both
thing, fetch
knew
thing,
this.
bring thing back.
You and me both.
Here's 30-second cutscene to make you feel happy about yourself. Now go fetch other thing for me.
Yeah, which you can't do if you have other players. Because what do you do with those 30-second cutscenes and stuff? Well, you could either make the player disappear, which that won't be game or mind scope breaking at all, or you have the player just stand there in the world waiting for the cutscene to end. Again,
exactly.
Won't look right in the game, but hey. Like, I don't know. I really need to get into this game at least once. It's just so expensive, and I've heard it's a lot harder to get into now than it was back in the day. But I need to find out how World of Warcraft did it. Because apparently they did it decent enough to create a long-lasting game. But in my mind, I think they did it the same way RuneScape did it. And I'm like, I don't know how they connected the two in such a way that it actually kept a following long enough.
I mean, I think of Pokemon. I think all they did is they just kept adding more, and they kept level capping, adding more level capping.
Yeah.
With their DLCs, I think is how they did it.
Yeah. But I really don't mind where Fallout's going with this. I'm just hoping, right now I'm just hoping that the single player, I'm hoping this is the turning point of Fallout 76. I'm hoping this mode's good, like it's still in beta, it still needs to have a couple bugs like the port cards and stuff fixed. But this mode's good, and I'm hoping when they add the NPCs and they add the factions back, that will be good. And I hope they just keep doing good content like that. I'm not saying the original game wasn't good. I just think those steps are going to...
More is better.
Well, I think those steps are going to lead Bethesda's envisionment of Fallout 76 and the fans' envisionment of Fallout 76 to start overlapping.
Yeah. It will.
And
Factions are confirmed, right?
I think so. I'm pretty sure. Or hopefully, I know that's a big issue a lot of fans are talking about, but I personally don't see this game. I don't see this game as bad anymore. When we stopped playing, though, I was really thinking about Fallout 76. Like, I've done everything I really want to get done. Yes, there's a lot more quests, but like, I'm okay with not seeing the end. With this new mode, I'm like, I could come back here every now and then.
Yeah.
At least like once a year, once a month kind of thing. At least to play a few rounds with a good buddy and all that.
Yeah, exactly. It's easy to pick up, drop, go, die, and then onward to the next game.
Yeah. But the good thing is because of it being easy to do all that, I'm not going to uninstall it. Most likely not. And hopefully when they add the story mode, I'm really hoping Bethesda does like Bethesda regularly does with stories, is actually make a really in-depth and role-play, character-driven story mode. Again, you and me both agree that with the multiplayer aspect, that's going to be really drawing every time you go to a quest point. But I hope something. I hope for something. I hope they can figure out how to solve it.
Well, Elder Scrolls Online's doing it quite well, so I mean, maybe they'll just pull a page out. I haven't really played Elder Scrolls Online, so I don't know how they typically do it, but it's doing well, so maybe they'll probably just pull a page out of their book. And
I'm hoping that, because in reality, just playing Nuclear Winter again, I would be kind of in the mood if tomorrow they were like, hey, the NPCs are back, factions are back, you can now like kind of properly role play. I would actually kind of be in the mood to possibly do a series of kind of like what you do with Fallout 4, do a series where I'm playing through the story.
That's the reason why I started over, because I'm like, if I can at least get it going on hardcore and at least get it started and going,
But the thing is, I'll ask you, especially since you're a big Fallout player, what you're doing with Fallout 4, could you imagine doing that for Fallout 76 just to capture the story again?
That's why I started over. That's what I intended on doing. I really honestly should have done it from the beginning. I don't know why I didn't, because then it would have just made the transition into hardcore just that much more easier, because then I wouldn't have had to make a new character. I'm like, well, I'm doing the story again, might as well start over and regrind everything. The grind's gonna be even harder now, because you get a bunch of level 150s running around shooting everyone's heads off, but, you know.
Yes.
We'll get there.
But my question is not now. I'm saying 10 years from now. Like you are doing Fallout 4 or whatever. 5 years, 6 years or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Could you imagine downloading Fallout 76 again 6 years from now to try to do the story again?
Nope, that's why I'm doing it now.
Okay.
And I also never completed 4. That's the reason why I'm also still trying to do 4.
Oh, yeah.
Because when you had a pretty nasty glitch with the first DLC that pretty much soured Fallout 4 for me.
Yeah. But I'm going to end my stream here. I don't know if you need any more minutes or anything.
No, that's good. It was just one of those. It's just easier to slice it at 15. That's just where I'm slicing it, and it's easier to just push it.
Yep.
Just milk an extra few.
Right.
I mean, we're good.
Have a good night,
Thank y'all if
everyone.
anyone stuck around.
Bye-bye.
Ta-ta.